Chair.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Not me. I did.
I'm so used to seeing you in that on your outfit.
It's just Matthew was part of my neck.
We still have part-time or double? It's part-time, I prefer not.
Did we hear from Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
He did confirm. Okay. Well, it is now 9:01, and we at least have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get this ball rolling. We will begin with a moment of silence, followed by a brief prayer from Pastor Ryan Dickerson. And then we'll get started in the agenda. So, take it from here.
Our Father, we thank you for this time and this season, and we thank you for this great housing, Father, Lord. We thank you for the staff, the leadership, and our residents, Lord. We thank you for this community. Lord, as we come to prepare for the present and the future, Lord, I pray that you bless this meeting today, and that we will have clarity in uncertain times. And God, that you would bless us, that we will accomplish everything we need to accomplish today. And that we will continue to operate in the spirit of love, unity, and healing. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I'll entertain a motion to accept and adopt the agenda as developed for staff. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. The motion passes. Okay, first we have a delegation from Ford Brunswick and Mr. Don Myers. You're the first one on the hot seat there,
All right.
kind sir.
Thank you. Is this a fine place for me to speak, or should I be up there at the podium?
Wherever you would like,
All right,
I guess.
I'm good. Okay. First, thank you for having us. Let me introduce Lance Sabey. Many of you know, who's also on the Forward Brunswick Board. He's actually our vice chair. And so, thank you, Lance, for coming with me this morning, and thank you all. You have a green folder from us, and we wiped out a Canadian forest to get that to you. And so, please. So I wanted to go through that first, if I may. For those of you on the board, you will see that the PowerPoint presentation that we're doing is in your folder. And then also in your folder is the Liberty Brunswick Project Trifolder, and I'll be mentioning more about that. It has Liberty on the cover. And then you also have the Operations Trifold folder, which is the one with the Old City Hall picture on the cover. Then there's an 8x11 sheet that proposes locations for sites, and I'll be talking more about Map Talk and the Liberty handout, but that's with you as well. And then I think your folders also have in them, yes, the March issue of Elegant Island Living. And there's a great story about Brunswick, and there's also a feature about us in that copy. We have 50 extra at the office if you need another copy of Elegant Island Living. Okay. Again, thanks for seeing us. Let's go to the second slide, is describe who we are. You'll see that also in the Brunswick, in the handout if you want to follow along. Not quite sure what the text is there, but anyway, look at our pictures some other time. There are 9 of us there, 8 of us serve on the board, and Aaron Granados is our executive director. And that's the group that is working with Forward Brunswick. On this slide, you'll see both our mission and our vision. After you, sir. You'll see both our mission and our vision. And our mission is to inspire community commitments, raise resources to accomplish Brunswick revitalization projects. And that's what we're about, the revitalization of Brunswick as a partner with existing enterprises. And our vision is to foster economic vitality as a partnership leader. We hope to be the one and are the one that tries to coordinate efforts of various other important organizations, both nonprofit and governmental, within the city. Let's go to the next. Okay, here is the flow of what we're trying to do. We have as a goal to enhance the quality of life for residents of Brunswick, and we're trying to do that through our work with people, through businesses, and with economic vitality. And I'll talk a bit more about how we foster that economic vitality. We have 3 strategic goals. These come from a strategic planning session that was done in August of 21, and it talks about amenities, beautification, and development. Okay? For the amenities, we are working hard to assure that there are more projects in Brunswick that support the needs of the people. And the one that I will talk about most here is Math Talk. Under beautification, we have a project that's been around in Brunswick for a while to plant. Please, go ahead. Go ahead. 99 trees. To plant 99 trees through the Liberty Brunswick project. Of that effort right now, we have 49 of those trees funded, mostly our live oak, and then we have another 50 trees to plant as well. And then under development, we won't talk much about it this morning since it's largely government funding, almost exclusively government funding, but we are also hoping to be helpful in the process of completing Mary Ross Park. And Lance is here today because he has lots of titles related to Mary Ross Park. And so as a result of that, he can answer your questions where I can only give you a bluffer's knowledge of the park. Okay, let's go on to the next if I may. Okay, the current initiatives that we have. The first is Mary Ross Park. Lance can talk with you a lot about that. The next is Math Talk. We are talking about a program to educate math for 2-year-olds through 10-year-olds on a trail through the city of Brunswick that would have 13 stops. It would begin at Mary Ross Park, stop at the library, stop at the Children's Museum, and the stops go on, and you have proposed locations as a handout today as well. That project is part of a national effort where it's coordinated with the school district, and we are the second community in Georgia to work on this project. In the Midwest where it started, there are these in a number of cities as well. And so then the last of the, well, I think I've done it, the 3 efforts, the tree park and the Math Talk Trail. Let's go on to the next for a moment. Okay. One of the reasons that I asked to be here today to represent Forward Brunswick when I was with William was to say that we are seeking operating funds and hoping that, I'm going to give you 3 options. You can say yes to all 3 or pick the one that you like the most. For operations, we have our board that has 100% of our board giving, and we have pledges at this point. The slide is several days old at this point. We're now at $312,000 pledged for 3 years, this year, next, and 2024 to help us with our operating budget. We have a full-time staff of 1. We're looking for a part-time person to help us with social media and communications tasks. That's what chews up about $100,000 a year in operating. We are fortunate to have from the Torres Family Foundation, our office space is free to us at this point. Okay. Now, these are the initiatives that we're looking forward to doing. The MLK Junior Boulevard Altama Avenue Trail. It's important for us that there be bike access in aspects of the city, and so that's an amenity for us that we're working on. And we are a partner with Signature Squares. As you may be aware, Signature Squares is the nonprofit that is trying to revitalize all of the squares in Brunswick as separated from the parks in Brunswick. And for that effort, we're in the process of developing a 6-year $1 million plan for Signature Square. We've raised about 350 of that, have another 150 to raise privately, and are hoping to have on the final SPLOST list in November a 500,000 coming from the city's portion of SPLOST. Under beautification, we can identify the need for Glen Avenue, Route 17. We're working very hard as an advocate for cleaning up that area, particularly trying to address the inn and the trailer park. Under development, we have a large effort. H2O through Lance is helping us to try to be an advocate for the passage of SPLOST in 2022. It's very clear to those of us who are working, and maybe to many of you in this room, that SPLOST passing is important for the financial future of the city of Brunswick. And so that roughly 20-some% of the SPLOST money coming to the city is an important aspect for the city's next near-term future. Okay. In addition to the thank you comes the ask. My mother taught me that people say thank you first and last, so I'm doing both. What we're here to do is to ask you to consider a $10,000 gift to our operating budget for each of the next 3 years. If that is something that you're comfortable doing, I was assured by William that you are able to make a gift to operating funds. Some enterprises are not, but you are able to make gifts to an operating fund. The next I'd like to talk to you is about the trees. The trees come at a price of roughly $1,500 a tree. That assures the purchase, the planting, the 3 years of maintenance of the tree to be sure it gets stabilized. And at that price, we would love for you to take on 6 trees, $9,000 to us. And if they were on your property, great. If you'd like them to be on property that is city right-of-way or elsewhere, we can work on that. The third option is to consider of those 13 stations. They roughly come at a cost of about $5,000 a station for the Math Talk Trail, and we'd appreciate it if you would consider funding 2 of those trails. So that's the 3 asks. $10,000 for operating, $9,000 to provide 6 trees for the Liberty Brunswick project, or to fund 2 of the sites for the Math Talk Trail at $5,000 each. There might have been another slide that said questions. So Lance and I are here to answer questions. And again, thank you for your time.
Any questions from the board?
I only have a question about the trees. Our last 2 hurricanes, we had a lot of trees come down. And so what makes you think that you can stabilize these trees from any,
I can only assure you of our best efforts. I think the point is that the city needs more trees. The canopy cover has been damaged, and so we're part of the effort to say 99 trees will be helpful to the city. And I should add that with these trees, there's also a story project. The 99 number comes from the Liberty ships built here and the Knott ships built here during World War II. And so each grouping of trees will have a sign with it, much like the signs that are in Signature Square parks, giving us part of the story of the people who were significantly helpful to building those 99 strips.
So do you know have you already decided where?
We have a map there in the handout that suggests to you where the trees might be.
And I don't think, to your point, those trees are all ironed out, and I think there's some flexibility to relocate or move some of those around. I know that Coastal Greenery has donated their time and energy to plant the trees, and our group is working with the city of Brunswick and their engineers to figure out. We don't want to plant a tree and then all of a sudden they're going to be like, hey, we're going to come rip up this road and a year, right? So we wanna make sure we select those locations that are gonna be, fairly permanent locations and have the most benefit, right? So we've talked, about Rice Risley and some other opportunities as well to enhance some other projects. So that's the nice thing about the Liberty Brunswick project, the Trees project, is that we see that as supplementing what other people are doing. Again, going back to Don's point about us trying to work together with agencies, not just run around and stick trees in the ground, right?
Okay, I have a question also. You talking about the trees. Well, you go look into the city, most of the city, we picked up trash. You got nails everywhere, and you putting trees down, and you still got a lot of debris everywhere. That's not a good sight.
We agree with that, but fortunately, so does the city manager agree with that. She was on radio on Monday morning talking about the shift that allows for bulk pickup monthly going forward rather than 4 times a year. And so I think they're working on that problem at the city level.
Don, historically, one of the things that we've asked for from people asking for operating funds is a copy of your operating budget prospectively. Have you got that put together? Can we see that?
Sure, yes.
So these trees all will be Mary Ross Park?
Yes, there could be trees, but Mary Ross Park, Lance can answer this even better than I, but we don't have the final plan for Mary Ross Park, so we're going to be planting trees before we know the final plan for Mary Ross Park. Our hope is to plant trees between December of '22 and April of '23. Lance, anything more to say on that?
Yeah, so a few trees in Mayor Ross Park, but again, we envision them being distributed throughout the whole city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Total of 9 trees?
Say it again, sorry?
Total of 9 trees?
No, 99.
99?
Yeah, almost 100, correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Of which we have 49 funded already.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're looking at, for example, Gloucester Street, along there, they're getting ready to repave it, DOT is, so is there some opportunity there? Norwich Street obviously could use a bunch of green space, right, some additional greenery along there. So I think there's a ton of opportunities, and if you guys are interested in helping fund the tree project, we're wide open to saying, hey, we have some property located here that needs some additional trees or whatnot, if that makes sense.
The trees could also be planted on your properties.
Exactly.
What we're looking for is a tree that is visible. There are some trees that have been planted by a group called GIFT, Gold Mouse Fund for Trees. They do some trees on the Glenn Academy campus, but they're not very accessible now that the fencing is up. And so what we're trying to do is to be sure that these 99 trees are accessible to the public.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions for staff? Ms. Strickland, we're about to enter our budget phase for next year, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll say this, while we are in that phase, we will take this under consideration. Of course, as Commissioner Kilgore stated, we would love to be able to see the, what's the request?
The budget.
Operating budget, and of course, the 990.
Oh, we've got it all.
All that wonderful information.
Yeah.
And we will, again, we're already looking at our budget for next year anyway, and I think that would be an excellent time to, at least for the board and staff, to revisit that moving forward.
Do I send the materials that Jeff has suggested to Angie?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Yes. Isn't that Golden Isles Inn, that's the one that's out on 17,
Yeah.
yeah.
The one that the
With
Vines will take over at some point
Yes.
soon.
Isn't there some additional development stuff that's going on, or
Yes.
going on with that? You guys are involved with that as well?
We're advocates for improving it.
Advocates for improving it.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're not developing it, but we're encouraging that there be some resolution to the current dilapidation there.
Okay. And on this SPLOST, if SPLOST doesn't get passed, how will you get your funding then for the additional park?
Well, yeah,
For Signature Squares, not
Or
for the park.
Signature Squares, that's
Signature Squares. that puts more muscle into the private fundraising, and they've done a great deal for private fundraising for Signature Squares already. But there has been a recent historic pattern of private dollars being matched by city dollars for the improvements to the parks. And that's the private $500,000, of which we have raised $350,000, hoping that the SPLOST funds at $500,000 will be the city match for the private funds that we have raised.
Okay. One final on this, just a statement, no more live oaks. We gotta find other trees. Live oaks they become an issue over time. And since, well, let you know about the tree board and such and so forth, and my connection with the tree board, they're pushing for other tree species and varieties other than live oaks.
And I think location drives that too, right? So obviously you want some signature live oaks, maybe at some prominent gateways to the community, but when you're talking in between sidewalks and things like that, I think there's opportunities to use other native trees that will still provide that shade that we're looking for to help pedestrian traffic and bike traffic, and create a sense of place.
When you study the brochure that is in your folder about the Liberty Tree Project, you'll see that the City Tree Board has recommended a motto of right tree, right location.
Absolutely.
And so that's the concept that we're working for in selecting trees. But I promise you, there will be live oaks in the 99. I don't mean that to be a deal breaker, but there will be live oaks in the 99 trees.
I just don't want you to get me in trouble with my wife.
I don't want to be in trouble with your wife, so we're good.
That was part of my thought when I asked about those trees being planted, because a lot of times, over time, the roots are up.
Yeah, tear up the sidewalk and then
Yeah.
you're being counterproductive, right? So.
Okay, any further questions from board or staff for Mr. Don Myers or Mr. Lance Sadie concerning the Fort Brunswick? Okay, so again, we'll be
Thank you very much.
going into our budget phase, so we'll be reviewing again and
Good to see you.
send that information over to Ms. Strickland. Thank you guys very much for
Thank you.
coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
All right, that was a great presentation by them. Moving on to old business, we have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 9, 2022. Let's hope not. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of the regular meeting held on March 9, 2022?
I move that we approve the minutes as drafted, presented by staff.
Do we have a second? I got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the minutes as drafted by staff, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the approval of the March 2022 financial report.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Yes, sir.
We don't have the police representative here, so we're not gonna get anything on. Typically, we get that before,
We get that report.
so she can get on about the business.
She's in court this morning, she's not here.
Okay.
That's a, we'll take that one. That's an excuse for not being.
If she's not here.
And we did have the documents.
Yeah.
And for us to review.
Yep.
So,
No, excellent, thank you very much. She's not here, that answers.
So
Financial report.
financial report.
Okay, I just wanted to mention, because you mentioned budgets a minute ago, we will be working on the budgets starting now, going forward. We also revised the current year's budget, for anything, like, a few months ago you approved for Bradley to increase the IT budget. I just wanted to mention, because I don't know these guys what they didn't think to ask them what the timing would be or when they would like the funds, but if it's in the next year's budget, we can't pay it, we can't donate anything until July 1st.
Right.
But in the past, like with Safe Harbor, they came in and we revised the current year budget to include whatever, if we were gonna give it, to be in this year's budget so it could be done before July 1st. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Okay. And I got your email, so
Yes.
I'm gonna start.
Again, apologies, I was up late after getting into the evening trying to get, because that was a massive amount of documents to go through.
Well, I got your email this morning, so. Anyway, I'm gonna go through and answer that, and then if any other questions, go ahead. On central office, the first question was increase over budget for maintenance labor. Maintenance labor is an estimate. It depends on, basically, if a maintenance guy is doing something in the central office, he puts it on his timesheet that he took, you know, because they're assigned to the site offices. But if they come in here and do work, they put it on their timesheet that they work in the central office for AC, plumbing, whatever goes wrong here. So that's an estimate at the beginning of the year. This is just the actual of what happened. That's what
And
happened.
can you elaborate on what was involved in this? I know we had estimated some, but it was roughly about 16% over. You know what all that was?
I have
roughly?
absolutely no idea over the 9 months that we've had in this fiscal year what they might have done that, you know, could have been air conditioning, most likely air conditioning, I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But it's all routine, it's nothing. The other one for the contract costs, a small portion of the miscellaneous contracts under the central office, that was not anticipated when we did the budget was when Brian left and before we hired Bradley, we used, Network Monkeys. And so that was, you know, just under a contract with them, so that's part of it. The other part is, and I'm going to move this, but I'm not sure yet. It's for the new flooring in the central office, which should be capitalized instead of expensed. And it's in the budget from last year as an item for us to do this flooring. But it was not was not put in there as an expense item. It's a capital item. But I was unsure as to whether we were finished with this or if there was anything else that was going to be done. So I was going to wait until the whole project was completed and paid before I went ahead and capitalized it, which would mean it would come out. I would, you know, move it out of this. So this is just where it's sitting at the moment.
Placeholder.
Yes, yes, just to keep it in front of me so I can finalize it later. Local owned bad debt expense, I don't really know what your question was, but those are just,
the actual versus the budget. Well, can you just what is bad debt expense and then?
Bad debt expense is stuff we send to collections.
Stuff we send to collections.
And how I estimate it when I do the budget is I just look at what percent of, in the current year. You know, I look at the latest quarter and then I also look at the fiscal year as a whole to see if they're relatively the same. And if they're close, then I estimate that for the next year. I mean, there's no perfect way to do it, but that's what it is.
Okay, so I'm gonna assume, what happens when we assume that this is, the increase will partially be due to our COVID offsets.
I would assume so, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Under Georgia HAP, the incentive fees for Georgia and Illinois, on a normal, regular basis, we get incentive fees for the state of Georgia and from Illinois, which is where Georgia HAP is headquartered. We get $17,000 a month for Georgia, and we get $41,000 for Illinois. And that's our regular income on a monthly basis. Twice a year, depending, and Angie knows way more about this than I do, but depending on the circumstances at headquarters, either in December and in July, we will get it's always called a one-time contribution, but it happens regularly, but we don't know the amounts. So we will get a lump sum. And that's what a lot of this is like the one-time contributions that we get. And I'm always hesitant to budget for that because it can vary, and I don't want to put false hope on the budget. So I always estimate low, you know. So anyway, that's what's in that account.
Well, I can appreciate that conservative approach.
I mean, I don't want to do that. Administration, the operating expenses for Georgia HAP. Administration is made up of salaries and the part of the overhead cost of the central office that is allocated to that fund. Salaries for Georgia HAP and for Coastal Phoenix, we have to estimate a portion of staff's time that would be devoted to Georgia HAP or Coastal Phoenix and assign that to those funds. Because if you don't do that, then it appears as if we are using federal funds to fund a non-federal program. So we can't do that, so we have to put some of the salary expense in those programs. So that's what some of it is. The biggest portion is now that we are the only partner in Whispering Oaks, that is our property, and the loan is through Georgia HAP. Every year, the county sends the property tax bills to Whispering Oaks and they pay them. A few years back, the city and county split their bills up and the city portion no longer showed up on the county bills. Apparently, and we did not know this because apparently Whispering Oaks never received the bills from the cities for like 2019 through this year, or last year. And so they finally, when they didn't get paid for several years, came to us and said, hey, these bills have not been paid. First we'd heard of it, we did not know. I'm assuming that the management company didn't know that a separate bill was gonna come from the city. Anyway, it was like 3 years worth of property tax bills. We knew that Whispering Oaks didn't have the funds to pay that all at once because they're always pretty tight with money. So we just decided, we'll pay it out of this fund, which is where Whispering Oaks really belongs. And then they plan on incorporating into their budget going forward the increase in property tax expense, and hopefully they'll have the funds to pay it from now on. So that's what that is. That was totally unexpected.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. And I did not know that the city had not sent us their portion of the tax bill.
Some of those tax credit properties, the address, like when they were created, the address had an Atlanta address. I don't know who that was. I mean, it was going to the original partner or something, and I don't know why it wasn't corrected, and I don't know why, if they saw that year to year this wasn't being paid, why somebody didn't say, hello, a phone call or something, why. I mean, we would have taken care of it. We didn't know until the notices started coming in this year.
But we're getting it squared away at this
point. Oh, it's all taken care of now.
Okay.
And it's on my calendar just to double check.
Question, with regard to the contract with the management company, do they not have any liability, or penalty, for missing something so significant? Anyone with any degree of intelligence would know that they're not getting a bill for property taxes they paid historically.
Well, they got the county bill, and I don't know that they even know that there was a city bill.
No, I understand that part. What I'm suggesting is that they should have known. Whether they knew or not, they should have known. And so I guess my question is whether or not there's any penalty for their oversight, as opposed to just simply, well, we screwed up and here's the bill and expect us to be responsible for it.
Well, actually, when we sent the bill over to, and I don't think they cut the checks at Whispering Oaks. I think it's sent off to their management company headquarters, which is in Florida.
Right.
But when we sent the bills over to them before we discussed in-house of, maybe we're just gonna fund this and get it taken care of, they had already called the city and tried to work out a payment plan to get it taken care of.
They being the management company?
But we went back to them and said, no, just make a note that going forward, this will be coming in and you should budget for it. But I don't know that anybody in the management company,
well, they got a representative on the ground here, right?
there's an office manager.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
all. I mean,
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Coe. That was actually great. I was thinking about the same thing as far as the contract there with Whispering Oaks, and of course, the amount of money that we have to, we're gonna pay those taxes, but normally Broyle, the management company, would be the person who pays those taxes. Are we gonna end up getting some recruitment of those funds in the future?
I don't know.
Is there anything in their contract with us that would state that, we would get that recruitment of those funds?
Are you talking about in the past or going forward?
Currently in their contract based upon the taxes that were bumbled, I'm just gonna use that word very loosely, bumbled by either the county, city, and or other interested parties.
I don't know that, I mean, I don't think they should be,
Anything in their contract
yeah.
that says that
I don't-
they'll be-
yeah.
yeah, and I don't think they should be,
Responsible.
because I don't think they necessarily did anything wrong. I mean, it was just an oversight on all parts.
Mhm.
And, I mean, their budget is so slim anyway. I mean,
But they've got a history of bad performance in passing on. We've
This is a
extended
different
loans to them.
management company.
We've
This is a
extended
different-
loans to them a number of times.
this is a different management.
I know it's a different management company, but it's the same property. And it's the same issue, with, whoever, is in charge. But over time, we've had to extend and pay bills for roofing, for the pool, as I recall, and a lot of different things over time. And so this is just another example. And, the city will tell you, and the county will tell you, we don't care whether you didn't get the bill or lost the bill or pay the tax. And so, I don't know that our attitude should be any different. But that's all I've got to say on it.
Well, and I'm just gonna, again, piggyback on what you stated there. Even if it went to their corporate headquarters, their county bill, I'm just saying the tax bills that went to the county tax bills that went to Whispering Oaks and got funneled up through, not with the city portion, because I was separate. I know when I received my personal property taxes and they were going through this process, I did get my bill from the county, and then before I got my bill from the city, I realized that my taxes were less than what I had normally been paying. And I knew to expect something else, so I agree. At least we should have expected that. We're looking at the budget here today now. There were some stuff that I had not seen before, and that's why I asked those kind of questions. So, again, moving forward,
Probably about the time that we switched management companies was about the time when the city and county split up their bills also. Plus, as far as Whispering Oaks having the money, when we switched management companies, it seemed like things were going better with them as far as the day-to-day operations. And then COVID hit, and their cash situation is not, I mean, they have problems with outstanding rent also. And so to think that they would have that money available, they wouldn't have been able to just pay it up front anyway. Or maybe, 2 years ago, maybe the 2019 one, they would have. But this year's, I don't see how they would have been able to pay that unless they did it in installments. But I'm just saying, they've suffered with tenant accounts receivable in the past year and a half also.
But if you're running a business and you can't pay your bills, you have to devise a method of increasing your revenue, or you go out of business. And I'm thinking the management company, it's their responsibility to set rents to where they can operate effectively. And in theory, at least at a cash break even. Are they rent controlled?
Yeah, I think aren't they still? Yeah.
So what do we need to do to ensure that they have the rent set at a break even?
I don't know, we'll talk to the management company and see what we can work out with them.
Let's see what we can, again, thank you, Commissioner Kilgore, you've done, those are great points. Can you send out that contract for the management company to the board here, so that we can take a look at it, and along with, and we can have discussions with, our attorney as well on some of the finer points in there to see what at least our contract states, and maybe for us as board members who are a little less familiar with Whispering Oaks and the management company, may be able to have a little more information on it. And then we can, does Whispering Oaks fall under our Gordon Armstrong or Coastal? Gordon. And when's our next Gordon Armstrong meeting?
Next month.
Next month. Okay, perfect. And we'll be in a position, hopefully next month, to be able to make more informed decisions on Whispering Oaks moving forward. Anything else for the financial report?
No.
We kind of got a little bit off subject there.
No.
Okay, any other questions from the board on the financial report?
We'll do some of the review, right? We'll get some information to review on this, Mr. Joe Jackson.
That'll be for Whispering Oaks under the Gordon Armstrong.
You'll have that idea what's going on.
Yes.
Okay.
And Ms. Strickland, if you can, particularly the points that Commissioner Kilgore made, about how to come,
Well, we just need to, talk to the management company, as Angie said, and
Mhm.
and that's all I'm
figure out how.
looking for is work with the management company to figure out, you gotta get, figure out a way to increase revenue or reduce expenses.
Mhm.
And so, as has been discussed, their budget's tight. They didn't know they had this expense, and so all of a sudden it comes in, and you owe this amount, well, they don't have the cash, they can't pay it. Well, I question, how are they gonna work that into their budget? If they couldn't pay it before, how are they going to be able to pay it prospectively? And so I'm just expecting that if, we've got a management company, that they're doing the job. And I'm trying to stop, trying to get out of this.
Trying to get out of this, okay.
But I think the answer has been provided, and so we'll look to hear what staff says next month.
Okay, great. So again, any other discussion on
I move
the?
that we approve the financial report. as
I've
submitted
got
by
it first,
staff.
do I need a second?
I second that we approve the financial report.
Got a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the financial report for March 2022, seconded by Madam Vice Chair Pamela Bailey. Do we have any further discussion on the financial reports? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same? That motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Executive Director's items, new business.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the 5-year plan and capital fund program plans. We've completed the process, gone through the public hearing, and so this is the final step before we submit the agency plan, so it just needs board approval.
Do we have any questions from the board on the final annual plan document?
We approve the annual plan as having been reviewed and submitted by staff.
I have a motion on the floor, I'll entertain a second. Need a second.
That's it.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the annual plan, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Is there any further discussion from the board? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. That motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next item is approved contract award for Mercer Alabama kitchen remodel. We, put the RFP out, we received 3 bids. All this was included in your packet. The apparent low bidder is Bent Pine Construction for $760,365. And staff recommendation is that we go with the low bidder.
Do we have knowledge from any previous customers or even prior experience with Bentheim?
Not firsthand of any other housing authorities, but their reviews are good and they're not on the HUD debarred list or anything.
We've used them before.
We used them before.
We've used them before. Bentheim.
And had satisfactory results?
As far as I know. I wasn't dealing with
When
them.
did you all,
Excuse me, sir. We'll let you know, we'll let you know when you speak on this topic, thank you.
Now, my only question is, recently, we heard, examples from the residents about when cabinets were replaced, that the wall in the hole was not fixed or not repaired before they hung the cabinets. Is anybody gonna go in there and check out steps that are being taken to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Absolutely,
Mm-hmm,
absolutely,
okay.
yeah. They'll be monitored to ensure that things are being done the correct way, so we don't revisit some of the issues that we have recently, been aware of and those concerns, so.
Okay.
Catch it on the front end.
Okay.
My question is, if we can ensure the fact of them giving the lowest bid, that they don't cut corners.
Right.
Can we ensure that they won't cut corners in their job? Because, just giving us a good bid, we appreciate that, but we want to make sure that they do the necessary work that needs to be done correctly.
Correct.
You know, yeah. You get what you pay for,
Exactly.
you know.
Well, we've got the specifications in the RFP, and then it's incumbent on staff to do the inspection and accept the work. And so, to your point, yeah, the staff is really responsible. And if it's not acceptable, then they have to make it acceptable under the terms of the contract, which I'm not trying to be a lawyer, but I'm sure the council would be able to expound on that if you got any further questions. But contractually, they're obligated to meet the standards that we specify.
This is the capital expenditure from the,
Yes.
this is to do all of the kitchen remodels for all of Mercer, Alabama.
Correct.
The unit that we had the fire in,
I'm sorry, not those. Sorry. Sorry.
okay, so, and that's
That would be a
that's gonna
different-
be separate and different, okay?
Yes.
And that's where I had a little bit of confusion there, thank you for clearing that up for me.
Sorry about that.
Those units, that'll be another subject that we deal with on another day, and that will not be involved in this.
Correct.
When is this going to affect?
This contract,
Yes.
as soon as we arrange the contract signing, and then we'll get in
With the same company?
with the, if you
Whichever
guys,
one we select.
yeah,
Oh, you don't select.
yeah, then we'll
Yeah.
have a meeting and do a notice to proceed and,
The Bentheim is not the one who said they couldn't start until August, right? It was one of those who said they couldn't start, and I apologize, I didn't actually write the note down, I didn't want to go through all of that again. One of them said they wouldn't be able to begin work until August due to scheduling.
August?
There was one of those in there, and I apologize again, I recall it, but I did not actually write it down. And I just wanted to make sure that we were looking at, that's a lot of stuff to work through. I figured I'll just get
no, that was, Mike and Construction.
Mike and Construction.
Yes.
Are they the ones who did the homes on K Street?
Yes.
Mike and
Yes.
Construction, okay. They did a pretty good job over there, I like it.
I have a question. So whoever we get, or the ones who did bid, they didn't come in and have a presentation and tell us about, so we can ask them how long they've been doing this work and certain questions like I just asked or anything. We don't get to see the people.
they had was a non-mandatory pre-bid conference on the 17th.
That's all
That was in the, that was in the document. That's all, yeah, that's all. Within this bid, and I apologize for this, did we exclude the units that we had the fire damage in? From, I know it said 84, and I'm not sure how many units we have in Mercer Altama. But I want to see if we excluded those particular units from the total count for the bid.
I'm not sure if it's specifically.
It says units 1 to 84.
Right.
And again, I'm not certain how many units we have in Mercer Altama specifically, but if we had the fire damage, which I think the fire damage occurred before we sent the bid out,
Right.
did we exclude those units? Because insurance is going to be taking care of those, which is a totally separate portion.
I don't think those are excluded, because I think Mercer has 84 units, if I'm right, if I remember correctly. That's based on my notes.
No, but we will make sure that they are excluded.
Which may end up with a decrease in the actual
Yeah, but that would be accomplished through a change order.
change.
I move that we approve staff's recommendation to engage Bent Pine Construction for the Mercer Altama kitchen remodeling at the amount of $760,365.
Would you add excluding the fire damage units to it?
But that would be processed through a change order, be a whole separate procedure, so. We could just do the contract approval today and then handle that through the change order process.
Okay. Do we have a second?
How long would this process, how long would this, oh, okay.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Kilgore to approve the Mercer Altama kitchen remodel for, I didn't have that number in front of me, I apologize, thank you, for the amount for, I guess that's Bent Pines, the lowest bidder, seconded by Commissioner Dobson. Do we have any further discussion, Madam Vice Chair?
How long has Bent Pine been in doing construction? Have they done construction for public housing before?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't work for us.
Okay. Did they do the Brooklyn kitchen remodeling?
I don't remember which project they did off the top of my head. I could go in my office and look, but I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was, but it was one of our large kitchens or bathroom projects. That's all I can remember. I just remember cutting the checks, that's all.
Because I wouldn't want the same ones that didn't put the cabinets up right the last time. I wouldn't want to give them the same contract. But how long would this take? This project?
I wouldn't know.
They'll, work all of that out when they do the notice to proceed and such a schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
And do we have to, my question is, do we have to do we have to vote today? Because I want to know who did the ones in Brooklyn Homes where most of the complaints came from, because I don't want that same contractor to be doing it again. If they mucked it up the last time, they don't need to get paid to do it again.
And I think that we can, that information we can gather for this, but I think we should go ahead and get this one approved so that we can at least get to work on those much needed remodeling.
That's true, but if we vote on the company that mucked up the other job, then
Well, we can all, in my opinion, I think that we can, based on the specifications that we get put into their contract, and under understanding that those things now we're going to be looking forward to, then we will have some repercussion in the future
Okay.
if those same things occur.
All right.
I don't know the circumstances about what was revealed in that public hearing, but if, in fact, there was a deficient installation that resulted in separation between the wall and the cabinet or whatever, that's incumbent on us to inspect each unit and to ensure that quality works there. And so we should be mindful that has happened in the past, and staff should ensure it never happens again.
So back to your point, Commissioner Kilgore, if this happened before,
Right.
what makes us think that this won't happen again?
Again, there would be the diligence of our staff to inspect and to accept every unit separately and to sign off that the work's done satisfactorily and whatever improvements need to be made will be made.
Did they have a broken home?
Yeah.
Did they inspect it?
I'm not a member of staff, I don't know. But it should have been done. Apparently, there was an oversight. It is the only thing I can offer.
Well, I know you're not a member of staff. I know that. You don't have to make that point. I'm just saying, if it wasn't done before, what would make us think it's going to be done back? That's my point. So how can we ensure that?
I can't predict
I know
the
you
future.
can.
Yes.
I know you guys
Yes.
can. But since you made that point up, I'm bringing up the point. If it happened before, what makes you think it's not going to happen again? You know, and then you're saying not a member of staff, but you're saying that the staff should have inspected it. So if you know the staff should have inspected it, why it wasn't done before? That's my point. You know, I don't have a problem.
You just have to ask the people that were there then.
You brought it up. I didn't bring it up. I just asked a question to make sure
And it was a valid
that they
point.
don't cut corners. I just
It's
want
a
to make sure.
valid point. It's up to the
since-
staff to ensure that the work's quality.
Yeah.
And it's acceptable.
So can I pose this question? Are you going to appoint a particular staff person or a group of staff people to go, so they will be the person that oversees that this work gets done right? And my other question is, if we have a paper trail, we should know who was the contractor who did it before. And like I said before, I don't want to pay, if someone came to your house and did a remodeling job and the same thing happened, you're not going to hire the same people if they messed up. You're going to get somebody totally different. So before, when he made his bid on the contractor, I just want to make sure that that wasn't the contractor we used before.
Well, if I knew what property it was, I could go back and look and see who the contractor was for that particular one. I don't know what property it was. And also, I mean, I think it would be fair to talk to both sides, talk to the contractor, talk to the employee, or talk to the person who said that the cabinets weren't right, and talk to the person who inspected it or whatever, and get both sides of the story.
You can do that, Rachel. But when I first came on the board, it was Brooklyn Home that was getting remodeled, the kitchen, I remember.
Well, we've done kitchens in several places. I just don't remember where that person said they lived.
Ms. Kicker, would
Yes.
it be up to our members to really follow up on that?
Yes, sir.
And
We'll have,
that would solve a lot of issues on
yes,
from the mistakes made
yes,
before.
yes. We'll have a contract
Because it's
administrator.
got to be some kind of ground where we do have a guideline on this is stuff getting done, and we got to talk about it down the road that this happened and that happened. Like I said, we went through this before, so it should be a better way that we can monitor this situation.
Right.
And the maintenance man been going out of this meeting for a couple of months, so if you're talking about maintenance and a contractor, he should be here in this meeting to answer some of these questions.
We'll take care of it. We'll make sure that we have somebody assigned to watch it, and a contract administrator.
Any further discussion on the approval of the contract award for Mercer Allen? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same. The motion passes unanimously.
last item on my, list is the write-off of tenants accounts receivable.
Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the write-offs of tenants accounts receivable as of March 31, 2022?
Just thinking back to what we discussed before on tenants that had felt in hardship during the COVID, same issue.
I don't see, right here. And am I correct to say that the $5 late fee is removed July 1st?
I'm not sure what they.
Because it's still in here. The $5 monthly late fee is still here on the daily thing.
Those are for, accounts that had not been written off prior, because that late fee that you're looking at on the first page, if you're looking at the same one I am, is for March 17th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Before the change took into effect. These cases are just going before the judge and just getting to the court, because the courts are now hearing cases.
How many more cases do we have with these late fees on here that didn't get to our eyes yet?
The late fees that you're seeing on these ones
Mm-hmm.
were before they were already going towards the process to go into court, okay? So because the courts at the time weren't hearing cases, you're seeing that 17th date, but they were probably accrued before our January date when we started removing those. But because the courts were delayed in just picking up, that's why you see this date, because it's finally when we got an order to process and move forward with it. So I assure you that in January, we stopped as soon as y'all approved it, that following period, we stopped and we took off those $5 fees.
Okay.
So if you see them on here, it's only because that process started prior to that, and it's just now finally getting to where we can get them to court and be taken care of.
So what would actually go into effect?
What do you
When we
go
go
into
to
effect?
$5.
It's already been gone, it's gone, it was all started being off in January.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the write-off is much smaller. Not that many people on here.
And I assume that these are the individuals who did not go through our repayment plan,
That's correct.
and we extended as much as we could to them to try to get them to remain.
That's correct.
The court system is still in effect after, a violation of the lease? The process of the courts,
Absolutely.
is that still in effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's after how many days?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question.
Remember when you get it,
Yes.
you have a certain time to appear to court. My question is, how much time do you have before you have to go to court after the actual eviction?
You normally get 30 days, you get 30 days to respond. That's right? How much do you get?
You get you are either going to be, the lease violation happens, you either get a 30-day or a 14-day letter, depending on what the offense is.
Okay.
Once that 30-day and 14-day is over, you actually get process the warrant. The warrant gets processed from our end to the court. The court sends a sheriff out. He normally does that within the first 7 days. At that point, when the sheriff serves you, you get 7 days from that point to go answer in court, which you just go down and say, yes, I'm going to pay, or I don't have the money, or whatever the reasons are, depending on the lease violation. And then at that point, the court goes ahead and signs your court date. And then whenever you show up for court, the court legally says that they have 7 days to evict you, that if they find in our favor. So it's not a we do a 14-day letter and on day 15 you're out. It doesn't happen that quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it
It's
depends
a
on-
process.
Yeah, it depends on the notice and what your violation is, whether it's a 14-day or a 30-day. And then part of that depends on the courts. Once all that gets to that point that's filed, depends on when it gets scheduled, for a hearing or court appearance and so
You said
forth.
14 or 30, right?
That's correct. If
It's
it's for
severity-
fees, if it's
It's the
for,
severity of the situation,
yes,
based on the 14
that does
or
take,
30?
if it's just rent, that's a 30-day notice.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the write-offs for the tenants accounts receivable? Motion on that? yet?
No.
No.
I will entertain a motion.
I motion that we pass the write-offs for this month.
I have a motion by Madam Vice Chair Bailey to approve the write-offs, and seconded by Commissioner Dickerson. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, have the same. That motion passes unanimously. Moving on to discussion items. Do we have any reports of committees?
Yes. You don't?
Yeah, I basically want to say, I apologize, Mr. Chair, to the board, that I haven't had a chance to meet with Commissioner Kilgore yet concerning the financial reports, but I do plan on this month, due to the loss of my grandmother last month. It really threw me off, and some other pastoral duties, but I will set up a meeting with Commissioner Kilgore so we can have a financial report ready in the next meeting.
Sounds fantastic. Any other reports of committees?
Yes, I have one. The residential committee. Recently, we had an incident where some residents needed some flyers copied. They got them copied last month, but this time they didn't get them, and they were told to come to the central office. When they came to the central office, they were told they couldn't get any copies, and they only got one copy made for the executive director, Ms. Strickland. And then they were asked where did they get the copy from that they had. And then I don't know whether they were told, but the resident went to Hopkins home, and they were told that they would have to pay 10 cents per copy. Now, to my understanding, as long as they're residents, and this is housing authority or resident issues, and I just wonder why in the email that we got, that we were told that that the only time they can get charged for a copy is if it's information from their file. So why would a site manager not know that information and want to charge them for a copy? Anybody have an answer to that?
I can give an inputted idea. So I would think when it was presented to the site folks, nobody knew that it was for the resident committee, that it had been formed, that these people were acting on behalf of the resident committee. It was just brought as, we just need these copies made. Well, is it, what is it for? Is it accurate info? Are we, if it's something that we're making copies of in the face of the housing authority, we want to ensure that the information is correct, that if we are gonna hold meetings to hear out residents and their concerns and so forth, that we wanna make sure that it's in the right forum and in the right place to do so they can be heard, so we can collaboratively gather the information so we can hear it all, address it, and move forward. So when things are brought to us and we don't know where it comes from, we're hesitant because we don't want to put out false information and make things worse than better. So I don't think that we have a problem with actually helping the resident committee, because we're all grateful that one has been established now, but we just have to know that that's what it's for. We don't want people that aren't a part of it speaking on their behalf when they're trying to do good work. and not knowing, making sure that information is accurate and it's getting out to the right places. And even 100 copies, I mean, if it's for the resident advisory committee, I mean, absolutely, you're gonna need more than 100 flyers, you know? So it's not that we don't want to. I think there was just a miscommunication and not knowing that that's what the flyers were being generated for.
Now, if it was a flyer, the information is on the flyer. So the information was basically just about the
But we
meeting.
don't know if that's a random person just generating that and speaking on that. We don't know that information, and we didn't want to put it out like this is the staff putting this out. And then if information is not correct or whatnot on there, we don't want to set a precedence for that. We don't mind doing it, Miss Bailey. We'll be more than happy to do it. We just needed to know, oh, this is what it's for. Let us help you then. You're going to need more than 100, you know, or something along those lines. So I honestly think it was just a miscommunication and not knowing what it was for. It was the second or third time something like this that was random, that was brought to staff, and they weren't aware either. So I think it was everybody just trying to be cautious, making sure we're putting out the right information, and who are we representing or putting it out for. It was just a miscommunication, I think.
Do you have a copy of that flyer? And my
I don't
second
have it with
question-
me, but I did see it. I did see it.
My second question is this: if a resident went to the site manager, evidently they had to live in public housing. All they had to do was ask them if they lived there or not, because the information on the website is not correct, it's not updated, so where are they going to get the correct information from? If they were here last month at our annual planning meeting, and I suggested to them to come to our board meeting every second Wednesday of the month, and they wanted the residents to know, that information is on the flyer. All you had to do is, do you have a copy of that flyer there? So,
Well, my concern with that is these board meetings are business discussion generated. It's not to say that we don't want to hear out the residents, but this is the time where we look at the business aspect of the housing authority and address issues. I'm glad residents come and they can hear it out, but to have the time designated to give them a voice so we can hear them, I would think that it would be more appropriate to have a separate type of meeting to where we can get more info out, rather than having them come and just listen to, you know, a lot of other information and a very limited time potentially, if not, their issues or concerns to be heard on a regular basis. And
Why not draft a
furthermore,
policy
but
and have a policy statement with regard to how you work with the advisory board in terms of communicating and whether or not making copies in the central office is a part of the agreement.
well, all I have to say is, they didn't want to say anything. This flyer just clearly says that a meeting will be held, and this meeting is open to the public.
we had residents ask, is it mandatory that I have to be there? Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So
I'm
that's
not
what I'm
saying-
saying, they don't always, it's not a general knowledge or perception like that. A lot of our residents don't know, do I have to be here, do I not have to be here, am I required to, is this for us? So,
All I'm saying is, the flyer clearly says that there's going to be a board meeting. It's open to the public comes, but this is the first time I've seen this many residents at our monthly meetings. I've been here going on 2 years, and no residents have been here. And if it's about the business of the residents, of how they live and what need to be done, then they should be offered the chance to come in and listen.
absolutely,
So,
and I
and
don't
that's
think
all that
anybody's
flyer
doubting
says.
that.
But as Commissioner Kilgore says, I would like to put in a policy, if a resident, you know they live in housing and they need copies, to give them a copy. You don't have to give them 99, but you can at least give them a suitable amount and let them distribute it into the community so residents can know.
But this meeting is properly noticed, and all legal requirements for anybody, residents as well as the general public, had access to the legal notice of the meeting.
Well, one legal notice is the
I have a
vote.
question. Hang on, because I don't want to stray too far off topic here. Again, just so that we're making sure we're following all the procedures and such and so forth. has the resident council or councils, have they officially, or I don't know what phase they're in at this point, as far as their organization, but have they actually deemed a specific spokesperson for their, I'm saying as a board and staff only, do we know if they've actually designated someone to liaise with the housing authority?
Is there a resident council?
All I know is they are gathering residents together in order for us to get to that point.
Okay.
And they're just coming to the meeting so we can start that phase so they can hear what's going on and we can go first.
And being that we're trying to get to that point, we need a better structure on how we're going about when we won't clash like that again.
Sure.
Right. Designated days for residential council meetings.
But that's when they have to come.
Right.
Again, I don't want to stray too far off topic,
No,
but
we're
that's
not
when
there
they will
yet.
have to. That's when they will have to approach the board and staff for
Right.
all of that stuff, and at that point they will deem a specific spokesperson
Right.
to liaise with board and staff for their
And all that.
organization and activities. Correct?
Yeah, right, and all that flyer was letting the residents know that there will be a meeting today. That's all that flyer said, that there's gonna be a meeting today.
So it was and again, I'm just want my clarity on this. The flyer, which that was just for our meeting, for the board meeting, that apparently the resident councils and their fledgling organizational portion wanted to distribute and disperse to the residents.
To let them know there's be a meeting today.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
all that
so,
was.
so, I mean, that's just very simple. We can just simply say, hey, staff, you guys put together, I mean, if they want that, if they want to have flyers to distribute for the Board of Commissioners meeting to the residents, staff, please draft up a monthly flyer, speak to Madam Vice Chair, since apparently she is on that particular subcommittee for the resident councils, such and so forth, and work with Madam Vice Chair to figure out the total number of flyers, when they need to go out, such and so forth. And I think that pretty much solves that.
And let me say
Not
this
really.
let me say this
There's
for
no resident council.
Wait, let me say this before we go any further. Because as Commissioner Kilgore eloquently says all the time that we sometimes overwork staff or whatever, that flyer can be generated and created by a resident. That one was, so staff doesn't have to create the flyer.
Well, again, so again, to Commissioner Kilgore's point, there is not an official, it's a fledgling state, and you're working with them,
Yes.
and this is something that they want. So we're gonna ask that you, on that subcommittee, at least for the time being, until they officially get organized and they get their liaisons and their points, you and staff, and whatever portion that you want to deal with, for this production of this flyer, because it seems like this is just a procedural issue more than anything.
Right.
Get it done, and we don't have to worry about it anymore.
I think it can be done properly.
Any further discussion on this particular issue from board or staff?
Well, the notices in the website, and I take your point on its face. I don't know, because I haven't looked at the website but my recollection is that not only, well, as a matter of fact, the website says April 13th board meeting, and the agenda's on there. And so, and the legal notice is published in the official organ, correct? For all board meetings.
Yes.
And so, the required notice has been accomplished. And to ask the staff to publish a flyer, what's the limits on that? There's 600 units. How many flyers do you contemplate and conceivably, could be 600.
And I would, I
And
would
who's gonna
assume,
distribute that?
I would take this. Yes, we've met our minimum legal requirements for advertising our meetings.
Right.
But that is just the minimum. We can, well within respect to the power and authority of this board, go beyond our minimum requirements. We have to do that as a minimum. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
No, I acknowledge the fact that we could send a notice to everybody in the country.
Yes.
I'm just
I mean,
questioning.
theoretically, we could send a notice to everyone in the country and United States territories.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Or internationally, into Europe and everywhere.
Yes.
So what's the point of asking staff to do something for a notice that's already adequately accomplished?
And
Again,
let me
excuse me, Madam
answer.
Chair, hang on. Again, so if we are encouraging the residents, and this is something that they want to do, I mean, we are literally just gonna be, I assume, copying or printing this and giving it to either Madam Vice Chair or whoever, whichever one of those residents want to actually disperse it. Is that too much to ask?
No, what I'm asking is, what are the limitations on what you're suggesting that Ms. Bailey do with staff? Is there going to be a flyer every day? Or is it just simply one flyer per month? Or how many flyers will the staff be asked to create? I mean, there's a whole range of uncertainties that are included in your general statement about what Ms. Bailey could do with staff, and I think it's unclear.
And I think that with Madam Vice Chair Bailey and staff, that they will be able to clearly work that portion of it out. And if it's not something that they can work out, then of course they can bring it back to the board for further discernment and or approval.
If creating and distributing flyers is the business of this board, then that's news to me.
Precisely.
Let me say this. I don't know when the last time we looked at the website, and they may have updated the website since 2 days ago.
Well, it was actually this morning when I was at.
Okay, but 2 days ago or 3 days ago, the last date of a board meeting was posted December 2021. Now, we had issues.
I don't think that's right.
Listen, we have issues with that website since I've been on that board.
Who's we? I don't.
Well, me,
Are we?
because
Okay.
but what I'm saying is,
Excuse me,
what
Madam
I'm
Vice
saying,
Chair. Excuse me, Madam Vice Chair. Let's just do, this was initially about the
flyer,
flyer,
okay?
so let's stick to that, because I believe
Okay.
you have the commissioner item under the
Okay.
website for
Now.
further discussion.
Going back to the flyer, you said that why go any further than how we usually do things? Well, everybody's not looking at the website. And it seems to me that this housing authority been only operating minimally, okay? So what I'm saying is, if the resident, and I didn't tell the staff to create the flyer, we have residents that are intelligent enough to create the flyer. They did that one, so all they have to do is create that flyer. Even if they give it to me, they make a certain standard amount of copies. It doesn't have to be 99 or whatever, as long as it gets out to the community, and they bring the residents in here every month.
Okay, what is the defined number that would accomplish getting it out to the community?
So let's do this, because, I think we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Again, Madam
Be the
Vice
first
Chair.
time. Go ahead.
Madam Vice Chair, and working with staff, can you guys design what, and if you need to include the members of the, again, fledgling organization of resident councils, design what would be appropriate in your terms. I don't think it needs to come back for an actual board vote approval, but to just send it out to us, this is the number of flyers we're gonna require, this is how often it's gonna happen, and that sort of thing.
This is what
And we're fine.
this is what we'll do. 40,
Just write it down for us and put it in the email, that would be fantastic.
I'll send an
I wanna move
email
on past
after
this
this,
subject.
I'll put it in an email after this meeting. 40 copies a month. Each community get about 10 copies, And just, that should be enough. And then you have your verbal, and then you make sure the website has these meetings located. And like I tell y'all all the time, that website is your Bible. And if it's not there, just let me know, okay?
So that is, any other report of committees? All right, moving on, commissioners' items, we have the website by Ms. Bailey.
Wait, can I say something
Yes.
to you about the website? When you said I looked at the website the other day, about 5 days ago, and it was updated through March of 2022. It didn't have April on there yet, but it had March, but I haven't looked at it since. But if you said December of 2021, I know somebody who used to come to our board meetings who was a guest who also had the same complaint, and I overheard Brian tell her to clear her cache on her computer because it's loading an old version of it's loading old information on the website or something. So if you do that, you might get the refreshed stuff because it is on there.
But April 13th is on there as we are sitting.
Oh, I'm no doubt.
And the agenda is on there as well.
Yeah.
And so, it's clear to me that it's updated.
Okay, it might be updated today. I'm glad that it is updated because it took how many years to get it updated since I've been on this board, but that's fine. Let's leave it like that and let's keep going forward.
I think it probably was updated before, but you have your opinion.
Anything else you have to say about the website as the
No, because I really
commissioner
didn't.
items?
I didn't look at the website last night or this day, but I know I looked at it a couple of days ago. So like I said, since that email came out or whatever, about the residence file or whatever, and on the website, does it have open to the public and residents included?
I'll have to look
For
at
the
it. I don't
board
know the
meetings?
verbatim of it.
Okay.
And just as a one final note, and I'll take the last word on the website. What's the gentleman's name again? Our IT director. Bradley. And he is still going through this process of updating our website through all of its upfront and back-end stuff that needs to go along with updating and potentially rebuilding, and all the other stuff that we included in his additional budget. And of course, all this stuff takes time, we are looking forward to having a more updated website and better functioning, and I'm looking forward to him doing a great job on the website. Moving on, we have the commissioners' items. We also have the work order report, which is Ms. Bailey as well.
Okay. Yes. I don't know what's going on with this work order, but all I ask for is for somebody, until I feel like maintenance is coming where the residents have less complaints and their issues are being looked at and being dealt with. All I ask for every month is the name of the community, the maintenance issue, when the work order went in, when the work got completed, and if for any reason the work can't get completed, I need a reason why. That's 5 columns that I asked for. And I get everything but what I asked for. So hopefully next month I will get that.
Within the information that we were getting and the information that we are currently getting, or that we have gotten at this point, and I'm sure these reports, because they are massive, is the information contained in that you require in the information, again, that we were previously getting and that we have now gotten?
No, because the information that we were previously getting, it was just too many information. And when I asked for particular repairs or was it fixed, all I get was, it's a general inspection. It's a general inspection. I understand they do general inspections, but when you come in and they talk about mold, and they talk about running water, and they talk about toilet overflow, and they talk about use your sink, and this, that, and the other thing, that's just too much for me. I want to have it simple and complex. And like I said, it might be
Simple and complex.
simple.
Let her finish.
Let me finish. I know simple and complex, two different things, Commissioner Kilgore, really. But anyway, I just want it simple and less complicated until I see that the maintenance issues are coming down. That's my point to see this. I've told it before 1,000 times with just me, Miss Strickland, me, and Mr. John, and it hasn't been done. So that's my issue.
Our system that we have, Elite, it does not allow us to generate a report to your request, okay? It won't give us kind of like a spreadsheet that will give you name, property, unit number, date. It doesn't come out like that. It prints out similar to these, and it's an individual thing, or it'll list it, by property, but it won't tell you details about that report. It'll give you a small little clippet of like what it's coded for, and then it will tell you like open close date, but the additional details as to if something was back ordered, that's why they couldn't fix it, or those details that you're looking for, it doesn't show it like that. So we would have to take that information, convert all of that onto a spreadsheet to then turn around and submit it. It's doable, but it will take a lot of time, and I don't know how I can stretch the staff to take. There's a large number of work orders, and depending on how far back you'd like for us to go, it would take a lot of man hours to convert it that way.
You produce a number of reports that were attached to the packet that went out this month.
Yes, sir.
Is there, within the capability of the computer system today, an ability to produce an open work order list of all open work orders?
Sure. But it's not going to give
And was that included on the attachments that went out with this month's packet?
Hang on. I think what's been sent are the individual work orders to kind of give you the details as to what happened, what was fixed or replaced, and it kind of shows you the dates and the timelines. So it's kind of like the way our system is. It gives you one or the other. You either get these individual pieces that kind of give you like the details as to what was fixed, what the issue was, and how they resolved it, or it gives you that these are what's open, here's the date it was open.
My question is, I think fairly simple. The person who's responsible for maintenance, whoever manages that department, can at any point in time, I presume, pull a report of all open work orders, or maybe even all work orders completed in the last 3 months. To look at each individual work order, the date that it was requested from the resident, the date that it was addressed by a maintenance person, and what the resolution was. I'm guessing all that's available.
Absolutely.
And so you don't have to, in my mind, you don't have to produce anything custom for Ms. Bailey. Management should already be performing the function that I believe Ms. Bailey aspires to. Am I correct?
The reason part on here is you could have a staff member, yes, a facilities director or a head maintenance person go through every single open work order for whatever the time frame is and fill in.
I'm not asking for every single work order. I'm asking if the system's resident within the computer system, the management system that we have currently. I'm guessing it's resident in the system.
Yeah, I mean, you can go in there and you can pull up, you know, you can put in date frames, you can put in properties, you can even break it down by the maintenance worker, so you can see what's open. But to give you one thing to look at, because she mentioned she would like to know the reason and the details to that particular work order, the way that report runs, it's not gonna give you those details. Those have to be like hand put in there for you, so you would have that additional information. That's all I'm saying. Or you get these printout things.
The only detail that I want is why it wasn't completed. That's all. And it doesn't have to be a broad detail. It could be that the part is on backlog, or the thing is the pipe is old and it needs to be replaced.
Okay.
It doesn't need to be detailed. I just want to know why it's not being completed or fixed.
Okay.
That's it. And I don't need to know the resident's name or the unit. I'm just asking for each community what's going on and how it's being attended to.
So then the department manager can simply ask for a report of all open work orders and send that to Ms. Bailey prior to any monthly meeting, right?
Sure.
So why don't we just do that?
Sure. I think the way it was thought previously was, and that's why I think some of these are printed today for you, because the thought process was to provide you with more of those details. As far as why it hasn't been fixed yet, or, you know, were there multiple ones for the same issue and why wasn't it resolved? Was it a parts issue? And that's where those details come in. So I think this was an effort to kind of provide you with that additional information so you could see if it was a parts delayed issue or so forth. But definitely there's not an issue with getting you just a complete, here's everything that's open in the last month. I mean, and some of them can even show you, this is, you know, when they were open, these, it can separate, showing you which ones are still open, which ones were open but already closed, give you a better sense of the full volume that comes in every month.
I have a question. I understand housing for a long time, and I'm looking at my site manager now. Right now. How you doing, Kim? Listen, I never had a problem with getting information from Kim if I had a problem. So wouldn't it be simple? Every site manager give out an order, because you have to call the site manager to form a complaint, right? Would she keep a log of each individual that has a major complaint? Wouldn't it be simple if the site manager can actually give that information to you, not saying that you're trying to do anything over the board head, but she would have the information that Ms. Bailey is requesting, right?
If it's a facilities issue, when the residents call the offices to report it, whether they speak to the assistant or the site manager, they immediately put that into Elite as a work order. So that information does already get put into Elite. That's these in your packet, these sheets like this, these are what the work orders look like.
Okay.
So they go in there and everything, and there's, the system, as soon as you put it in, automatically generates that date and time. Maintenance guys, when they're finished, have to go in there and enter their notes as to how they completed that work order request, and it automatically generates the completion time.
Is that sufficient? That's solid.
Well, what I'm trying to say is the details that are on these types of work order reports, the details as to how it was fixed and that is not on the general one that will show you open, closed and that. So, but I got what you want and,
that's what you request.
No, I don't wanna know how it got fixed. I just wanna know that when the work order went in, when it got completed, and if it didn't get completed, the reason why. That's just it.
All right, any further discussion on the work order report? Being none, we'll move on. I have one commissioner item, I apologize for not getting on there. Spoke with Commissioner Bailey about the Personnel Committee. We're gonna remove her from the Personnel Committee and appoint Commissioner Dickerson in her place. And that's all I have for the Personnel Committee. We're removing Madam Vice Chair Bailey, and appointing Commissioner Dickerson to the Personnel Committee. I do want to take a moment, I know there's this, I know that we do have some stuff to discuss, but I do want to take a moment to see if anyone in our public realm there, does anyone there have anything that they want to say about this meeting? I'll give you roughly about 60 seconds. Yes, former Commissioner Doris Dollar Carter.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's everyone? I can't say anything in 60 seconds.
That's why I'm limited to you to 30.
First, Ms. Strickland, I really would like to thank you for responding to my email with the issues that we're having in Whispering Oaks. When I moved into Whispering Oaks 3 years ago, we did not have a management company. I am seriously opposed to management companies. And when I become opposed to something, I go looking for who the owners are, because I hold the owners accountable. I still have mold and mildew in this apartment. Before the Housing Authority bought these apartments a couple of years ago, we had a manager there that was not a part of a management company. We have a superb manager. She's doing her job, but she's limited to what the regional manager over the management company say she's allowed to do. I have all kind of pictures. You don't have enough time to see. I have mold and mildew in my window with maggots, okay? My house, the apartment flooded. She did the best she could, but she got sick and she had to leave, which kind of left us stuck with whoever filled out the management responsibilities while she was off on leave. But Whispering Oaks was really a good apartment community. When I moved there 3 years ago, it wasn't perfect. Our maintenance man, Mike, he does his best. My sink was stopped up for a month. I put in the order to unstop it. I got tired of waiting. I unstopped it myself. So when he saw me yesterday, he said, "I'm coming." I said, "That's okay. It's already done." I've also solved my roach issue. This stuff is called Demon WP. Got roaches, get some. Roaches gone. But but my major concern are these young people who are gathering on the steps next to my apartment. These kids have to be 14, 15, 16 years old. They are out there to 11 and 12 o'clock at night. They are smoking reefer. They are bringing food in. Most of them don't even live there. The lady that lives above me, she has a teenage son. She's the only one, and they only hang out in building 300, okay? We are constantly, I'm sorry, I pay my rent on time. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be in peace. The only thing that keep me from going after those kids are my sons. They say, "Mama, don't you mess with those kids." But I'm not putting up with it. So what I do is I call the police officer. Well, by the time the police officers come into the apartment, they see them, they run. So I appreciate what I've heard. Give me a second. I appreciate what I've heard, Ms. Strickland. I heard that we are going to get the community gated.
So again, we still have some agenda items that we have to handle.
Okay, well, go ahead. I don't say what I had to
think
say.
those are gonna be a little bit of a close meeting. We did receive your email. I didn't receive an email on some of the other things that you
No, because I was
put in
only
there.
mad about the kids when I said that.
So can you formulate that into an additional email for us? And I believe, again, we're meeting next month for the Whispering Oaks. And I would encourage you to come there, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss, or hopefully we can make sure you're added to the agenda to discuss.
Okay, well, that would be wonderful. And Miss Bailey, the maintenance man is overworked. He can't do it all. I'm sorry, he can't.
Maintenance man for Whispering Oaks is
For Whispering Oaks, he can't do it all. It's impossible.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone from the public? We got Mr. Brooks and/or Dr. Nixon. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, from the city of Brunswick, we are continuously informing, educating, and engaging communities in the city, decision-making process. It was really good to hear that there's a possibility that a resident council will be formed for the Brunswick Housing Authority, and that way that the citizens that you are can have your voice through that platform. So congratulations on that. I wish you all the best of luck with that.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I assume that's the last public statement that we have today? Okay.
You wanna say something?
1 minute.
Okay, a minute. Alright, I just had a question about, the flyers. Like, is there a reason why we can't get enough for every unit? Like, we're not making flyers for 1 million meetings. It was just this specific meeting because on the website, it wasn't updated. We checked the website every day and it wasn't updated. And that was just my only question about that. The bulletin, the bulletin board at the communities, if those can be updated as well. The papers are damaged. They're from July of last year. You know, except for the Star Foundation, those sheets are always fresh. But you know, that would be helpful.
We thank you for your question, and again, I think that, and again, working with Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioner Dobson as well, because they're both on the resident subcommittee, resident council subcommittee, I think that's what it's called, and staff. Again, you guys work together, figure out all this proper stuff. Again, we don't need to bring this back to the board as a vote. I'm sure you guys can compromise and figure out what we need to get done in accordance to all interested parties.
Can I ask a quick question?
You have 1 minute.
Okay, I don't need a whole minute. So if you did want to just put the flyer inside of the bulletin board, who would you contact to let them know, hey, could you put this in here, you know, for us, being that we don't have access to move it over and put it in ourselves?
Your site manager.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask this question? I can't. Let me ask this question. Is there a flyer on the front door of the central office prior to a monthly meeting so residents can see it if they come here to drop off something or whatever? I haven't seen one. Can you start putting one on?
Can we, again, I think, again, with that discussion of the flyer,
Yeah.
again,
Okay.
with all the interested parties, I think that would be a great place for that to happen.
Okay.
Okay, so that ends all of our commissioners' items. Do we have a need for executive session?
A closed meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to move to executive session.
I move that we suspend the regular meeting and adjourn to executive session.
Do I have a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Kilgore, second by Commissioner Richardson to executive session. All in favor say, or any further discussion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed have the same. Okay, we are going to move into our executive session. Thanks everyone for coming out. We appreciate you. Thank you, as well as not just the public staff and everyone that came out. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, residents.